Welcome to another episode of The Arts Are the Answer, a co-production of the Arts Council for Monterey County and Access Monterey Peninsula. My name is Steve Elzy, and I'm the executive producer for AMP.
And I'm Paulette Lynch, Executive Director of the Arts Council for Monterey County. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking with artists who have found out how far the arms of the arts reach into our lives, bringing joy and entertainment, and also antidotes for some of the maladies of life.
And it all starts right now.
I'm here today with Camilla Cooper. I am so glad that she's been in our region for a whole year, and she's been working with the Arts Council as a volunteer infrastructure program coordinator with a big program called AmeriCorps, administered by CSUMB. But she's here today, not about that. She is here today as an actress, a playwright, and someone who cares so much about our youth that she has been volunteering with the Village Project in Seaside, creating a play with students there. And the theme they've been willing to tackle is bullying, something so important to everybody. So welcome, Camilla. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
So let's take it one step at a time. What got you interested in theater in the first place?
Well, when I was younger, at my church growing up, I used to be in the skits that we used to do Easter, Christmas, those kind of things. And I really loved the process of learning lines and having rehearsal with the people in the play. So like that whole building community thing was really important to me. I really loved the bonds that I created with those people and that I still have because I was in that process with them. So when I got to college, I was trying to figure out what I was going to major in and what I really liked and what I was really passionate about. And working with Rainbow Theater and the African American Theater Arts Troupe at UC Santa Cruz really solidified my passion to major in theater. So ever since then, I've been all about drama.
That's wonderful. And so you brought that passion and you brought all that experience to these kids at the Village Project. What was it like? Did they embrace the ideas right away, or did it take some time for them to get used to even developing a play or acting or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, at first I started off asking them if they wanted to be in a play. And it was funny because some kids were like, what? Like, I don't,
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know. And so I did a series of interviews with all of them to get to know who they were, what they liked about school, what they didn't like, what made them laugh, what made them cry, and just ask them a bunch of questions, one to get characters, but then also to get to know them a little bit individually without all of the dynamics that happen with students when they're together. And so going off of that, I started writing the play, and the process was really funny because there were days where I went to the Village Project and it was like, okay, we're gonna have some theater games that we're gonna do, and they were looking at me like, what is this woman doing? Like, why is she here? But after a couple months, they really got to understand that it was really fun. It was fun. I was there to have fun with them, and that we were going to play games that they had never probably heard of before, but that it was something new and challenging that they had to figure out. And so I think from there it got them really interested in, okay, what is this lady gonna do now?
That's wonderful. So, so you talk about games and play and fun, but your play that you're writing with them is about bullying. How were they involved in choosing that theme? Is that what they really wanted to do, or is it something that you developed together? How did that come about?
Well, at the end of each interview, I asked them, if you could write a play, what would it be about? Some people chose talking oranges, and I want to be a Superman, and I was like, okay, I'll take all these ideas into consideration. But I spent a couple weeks really just looking at the dynamics that they had with each other, and I noticed there was a lot of bullying, and I felt like it wasn't just them bullying and not being aware of it. It was probably happening at school too. And some would handle it differently than others. And I was like, okay, I think this should be addressed. And so I kind of started writing based on those characters that I kind of developed from the interviews. And then the idea that they'll become more aware of how and what they say and how that could be perceived as bullying. So I kind of put that all together in a play.
That's so amazing. And I'm sure the students, it seems like they've got so much out of it. You help them move from, no, I don't know anything about what you're talking about, to all of a sudden being in charge of their characters, of the play, of the ideas. Can you tell us about maybe one or two of the kids who really stand out in your mind, like as you think back over that whole time as you're bringing them slowly forward?
Yeah. There's this one student who is about 11, and when I first met her, she was really shy, really soft-spoken, kind of reminded me of myself when I was her age, and so I was really drawn to her. I wanted to know what she was thinking, and I wanted to know how I could make her character more comfortable for her. And there was a point where we have some smaller kids who are going to learn a cheerleading routine for the finale of the play. And I'm not a cheerleader. I don't have those rah-rah moves. So I asked the other students, the other girls that are cheerleaders, can they teach the smaller ones how to do, a certain cheer and stuff. And I had two that were interested, but they found it very frustrating to work with smaller kids, for whatever reason. They're not cheerleaders, So, this one student, she stepped up. She said, okay, I will be the one to teach them. And we had maybe 3 or 4 rehearsals where it was just cheerleading rehearsal, and she was teaching them, and you could see the pride in her eyes of oh my goodness, I'm a leader right now.
How
and
wonderful.
I can do this. So it was like a different kind of confidence, and she was really excited every time I came, because then she was like, oh, I can teach them, and I can show Camilla that I can teach them. So that just learning about yourself is what I'm seeing a lot in these students, whether it's like a 5-minute rehearsal or a 30-minute rehearsal. Once they get focused, it's like magic.
That's really wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, Camilla. We believe really that the arts are the answer to so many things. And what you're describing and what you're all about at the Village Project, this is really a beautiful, wonderful example. I'm sure it's going to really have a long, long legacy in the lives of the kids that you worked with, and also for the Village Project and our whole community. So I really look forward to hearing more in the future about other projects that you're doing, and I expect the play maybe it'll go everywhere. I bet it could.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I am so delighted and I'm so excited to have with me in the studio Mr. David Gordon. David, welcome to The Arts Are the Answer.
Thank you. So nice to be here, Steve.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Now, first of all, congratulations on the 25 years with the Bach Festival.
Thank you.
And, I say Dramaturge, but I'm not really sure how that's pronounced.
My job title, Dramaturge, comes from German and French.
Oh.
And it's the only title that sort of encompasses everything I do for the festival, and yet it sounds vaguely like some sort of disease. But basically, I am the sort of the coyote of the festival. I'm the guy who says, why are we doing this? And did you know about this? And I do some history, I do some translations, it's the lectures, it's all that different kind of stuff. And it rolled into one piece. It's dramaturge. It's a word that was kind of invented in the early 19th century in Germany for this role. It started in theaters, and now you find it in opera companies and festivals, and it's the minister without portfolio who kind of goes around and does a little bit of everything.
There you are.
And I bring my performing experience to it as well as my scholarly experience, and it's a fantastic playground for me. I sang for 9 seasons as one of the principal vocal soloists, and then I stayed on in other kinds of roles. And by now, I've done pretty much everything that anybody could do at the Bach Festival. I have conducted, sung, narrated, produced, directed, written. I've done just about everything, and that's really what drew me here. I had a clear sense of a potential for me I was, at the time when I first came here in 1983, I've actually been here 25 seasons over 31 years.
Okay.
And when I first came here in 83, I had been traveling all over the world at that point, but it was like here in Carmel, my gifts were gratefully received. It's like I could really be myself here.
Okay.
And at the time I first came here, I was living in Manhattan. And I gradually grew closer and closer. And 10 years ago this summer, I moved to Carmel Valley.
Okay.
And so here I am.
I'll be
And it's
doggone.
been, the 25 seasons have gone by like seconds, you know. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Well, tell us then, when you first started out, you know, the earlier days in your career, what were you doing?
Well, music picked me. Music just chose me. There was never any doubt in my mind that music was just a way for me to figure out the world. I perceived the world kind of through my ears more than through my eyes in a way. I started singing when I was really young. I sang myself to sleep when I was a toddler. I was a folk musician. I was a really avid folk musician in the 60s, and I still play the guitar and do concerts with it today.
Okay.
And I went into a lot of singing in high school. I went away to college to become a music teacher. And my voice teacher said, you know, you could be a professional singer. I had never considered that. I had no background for it in my family. My family thought it was great. Sure. And I thought, well, if this voice teacher thinks I can do it, then maybe I'll just do it.
Right.
And I did it. And I'm one of the lucky guys. I worked really hard, but I went to a training program at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. I was in a repertory company in Austria for 4 years where we just did all kinds of roles, leading roles, bit parts, everything like that. And that was sort of my journeymanship. And then I found the music that I loved the best and was best at and started focusing on that.
Okay.
But music has been a part of my life since before I can even remember what my life was. It's always been there.
Music is that friend that never goes away. Then.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you came to the Bach Festival. What, did you come out to audition?
I
or?
did. I had, in 1981, I made my debut with the San Francisco Opera.
Oh.
And that was a wonderful experience. And I sang many years with them, all kinds of productions. But when I was here in 81, I learned about this festival south of San Francisco in Carmel. Sounded like a cool thing. I heard of Carmel. And so when I came back in 82 to the San Francisco Opera, I arranged an audition. And I drove down to Carmel, and I met with Sándor Salgó, who was the music director, and his wife, who directed the professional choral ensemble, and Ken Ahrens, who was an accompanist and librarian and sort of did everything. And I met with the three of them, and I sang for them, and they immediately invited me to come to the 1993 season.
Wow.
And sing in Bach's St. John Passion. And I spent 4 weeks in Carmel, and I just thought it was the most beautiful place I'd ever been in my life. I drove down to Big Sur. I camped out a couple of times in the Los Padres National Forest. I just fell in love with this place. And then for several years I was unable to come back because I had signed a contract to sing and teach in a summer program in Germany.
Okay.
Finally, in 1990, they got me back, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
It is one of the most interesting festival experiences I have ever had, because at the Carmel Bach Festival, we don't just throw the music out there and let people just react to it. We want people to react to it, but we also want to place the music into some kind of context. And we do that through pre-concert lectures, seminars. We have English language super titles for all the music that's sung in foreign languages. I do all of that as well. All the ways that we create the world of ideas around the music. So that people understand not only when the composer was born, blah, 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 but where the music came from, why it was written, why it occurred, what significance this music had then. And there have been pre-concert lectures at the Carmel Bach Festival since the very first concert in 1935. There have always been lectures.
Really?
Yeah. It's always been part of the festival experience, is talking about the music around it, not to teach people bunches of facts that they have to try and remember, but to get people excited and open their hearts and give them an idea of why they should care about going into the concert hall to hear the music. I don't want people to say, gosh, I hope I can remember all the stuff he said about the about the inverted form of the secondary melody in the recapitulation in the sonata form of the third movement, because nobody's going to remember that.
Right.
But I want them to know that the composer was a human being who had a life, who maybe struggled. Maybe this piece meant something to him. Maybe it was part of his life. When you do that, you open people's hearts.
Sure.
Our minds are going all the time. You open people's hearts, and then the music gets in.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I want everybody, no matter, people come up to me and say, well, I don't know much about music, but. I say, no, let's start this conversation over again.
Okay.
Everybody knows a certain amount of things about music,
and
it doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is, can you go in there and say, and have the courage to say, I'm going to listen to this and I'm going to be okay with however I react to it. It's okay if you don't like it. Don't pretend to like something you don't like.
Sure.
But give every piece of music a chance.
Sure.
Like it, dislike it, whatever, but you can't think your way through it. You have to feel your way through it. You have to go with your gut reaction.
I want to thank you for visiting us on The Arts Are the Answer. Congratulations on your 25 years. Carmel Bach Festival starts on Saturday,
July 13th.
Okay.
And we have a few events prior to that in our rehearsal week period, but our opening night is Saturday night, July the 13th, preceded by a pre-concert lecture from me.
Oh, boy. Cannot wait, and really looking forward to it. Thanks again, David.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks very much for having me here.
Okay, it's our pleasure.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Walter Rice. I'm the Arts and Entertainment Writer at the Monterey County Weekly, and I'm glad to have as my guest sculptor Stephen Whyte. Originally born in England, Stephen is now a proud U.S. citizen and has a gallery in Carmel called the Stephen Whyte Sculpture Studio and Gallery. Stephen, thanks for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your upbringing in England?
My father was in the Royal Air Force, so I moved from school to school all the way through my childhood. I'd never really had more than 2 years at any one school, and that combined with a chronic dyslexia made it really that art was the only syllabus that never changed, for one, and secondly, the only thing that I would be anything other than the bottom of the class. So that really focused my attention as I was becoming a teen to consider art as a possible future.
Okay, and why sculpture?
Sculpture. Well, at the last high school I went to, and in the UK they specialise a lot earlier, so we were doing A-levels, which is like little mini diplomas that you add up to go to university with. So they said I needed to do another subject. So the subject they had that I could do, that I fancied, was pottery and ceramics. So after doing sort of illustrative work and sort of pen and inks and things like that, which was where I thought I was going, suddenly it all changed and it was all three-dimensional, and I never really looked back from that. I sold out my first high school show. I wish I could get those sculptures back. Wow. But we sold out that and went on from there.
Okay. And you sought formal training, schooling. How was that?
Well, originally I was going to go into sculptural ceramics, and I got into the Royal College of Art and the St Martin's School of Art in London and Cardiff University for ceramics. And my mother said to me, why don't you see if one of the big ceramics companies will sponsor you a little bit through school so you can go and work for them afterwards. So we visited a couple of them and phoned in, and Royal Dalton said to me, well, we don't do that, but we do sponsor, we do help finance a private figurative sculpture school. So I then thought, well, okay, this is the place I want to go to. And we went and visited it, and it was all postgraduate. Everybody had already got their degrees. Most people had got their masters, and you know, a few of them were even ex-Royal Academy. So I would have been the youngest, and I just really wanted to go. It was a very traditional school, very classically trained. There was only about 6 or 7 students in each year, and there was only 3 years. And the school itself was, they worked in an old building that belonged to Royal Dalton. And so they kept factory hours. So the school itself was 48 weeks a year, 5.5 days a week from 9 to 5.
Oh, wow.
Or 8:30 to 5. So in terms of, you know, setting yourself up for, you know, a future where you're working, you know, professionally, that was good timing, you know, because you didn't have big long summers, you know, it was very strict. So anyway, I managed to work my way into the school. They didn't want to take me because I was too young and just annoying little student. So I bullied my way in, and they eventually said, okay, and they let me in. And I was the youngest student when I graduated from there. I was still the youngest.
So after you graduated, you did some commissions, public and private, correct?
Yep. Generally pretty much the first 10 years out of school was all commission work, whether it be portrait sculptures or private commissions for people's homes or public works. So the first few pieces I did, I got commissioned to do a nice piece for a hotel group it was at the bottom of a big stairwell rising up through it, and that sort of set me up for about 18 months after school. And then I also was doing a lot of big portrait busts in London, so I'd go down to London probably once or twice a week, and I was doing portraits of the Duke of Westminster, the Speaker of the House of Commons. I got commissioned by the British Red Cross to do Princess Diana, which sadly didn't happen because of other incidents, but and then we did some big public works as well. So.
And those big public works, can you talk about 2 of them in particular, the Silverdale Mining Memorial and Jack Baskerville VC tribute?
Well, the Silverdale one was a nice piece. It was a 9 foot, if you were standing up, a figure, so it was slightly over life and a half, of a mine worker. And this area had it was a mining town, and they wanted to memorialize the fallen miners. So we wanted to do this piece, and bear in mind it's much larger than life. So we did our research and found out that the boys down the mines were in about 13 to 17 they were starting.
Wow.
So we did this 15-year-old boy pushing this mining cart, and then we sort of did all our research for that, and we found that all the boys would wear their father's old passed down clogs. So we interviewed a whole bunch of people and miners, and we had 101-year-old miner that came and told us about what he would have been wearing. And when he started, he could fit his fist in the shoe behind his ankle. The clogs were so big, and so we did these really big clogs and he came and worked with us on those. And he said he always wore his father's trousers as well. And so this youth that we sculpted has got, you know, a big belt holding on his trousers and these great big shoes, and they couldn't raise their heads above the height of the coal truck. So you were pushing a 3 foot high coal truck, and you had to be that low. So the figure is really, really quite at an angle, and they used to put their feet in the holes in between the railway sleepers. So we had all that in the piece, and then it had 10 reliefs around it of famous people from Silverdale and a timeline of the mine and a list of the fallen.
Okay. And that was received, by the town, how?
Oh, wonderfully, yeah. It was. In fact, we were so pushed on time that we put all the plaques up in sprayed plaster to look like bronze because they hadn't come back from the foundry, and we then planned to take them off that night, and so we took them all with us after the unveiling. And then the police phoned us up because they'd been reported that they'd all been stolen. So we had to let them know that it was all part of the plan.
Being replaced.
So no, it was. They have a ceremony there every year now.
Okay. And the other one, the Jack Baskerville.
That was a big piece. That was 13 feet high on top of a 9-foot base, and it was a great story. One of the good things about doing figurative sculpture and public art is that you get thrown into subjects that you wouldn't normally have looked into, and then you get to look into them to such depth that you're redoing your own research, and then you're having a lot of oral histories from people that really, really care about the subject. And this was the case with Jack Baskerville. He was the only, this is the statue of him, is the only statue in the UK to a non-commissioned soldier. And he was recommended for the Victoria Cross, which is our highest posthumous heroic medal, by the Germans themselves. They sent his body back, and they wrote, there was a letter there saying this, telling of his deeds, and he basically was one of a 4-man crew that parachuted into the enemy, behind enemy lines with gliders that then turned into guns. And he had these 2 cannons set up, and his other 3 colleagues had been killed, and he was running between the 2 and taking out these Panzer division. And they eventually got him, and the Germans said that, this is a very brave man, and you should. So we ended up doing this statue of him, really big statue, and his little sister at the time was about 12 years difference between them. And she came and worked with us on it as well. So we've got a great photograph of her, because it's so tall she could stand underneath it, between his legs. And she's sort of looking up at her big brother, who's very big brother. So we had some fun with that one. People
can see more of your work online?
Yeah, we have a very active Facebook following, and it's a studio website, but the Facebook one's more up to date. And then we're open pretty much 9 till 4 or 5 every day. And they can come in and see what's going on and see how it's done.
All right. Thank you, Stephen Whyte, for coming on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
We hope you enjoyed the program.
And on future episodes, we would love to hear your story. So drop us a line at info@theartsartheanswer.org.
Maybe next month, we'll be telling our audience how you found out
the arts are the answer.
Thanks for watching.